And we are now going to bring on a good friend of ours and a colleague, Jill Anderson. She is president of NP Dodge Residential. Good morning, Jill.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming back to the show. And I want to start off with the 30,000-foot view. Where is the single-family housing market right now? What's going on out there?
Well, and that's a great question. You know, if you watch the national news, you're probably going to panic a little, and you shouldn't. We are definitely in a shift. I think the last time I was here, it was really during the pandemic, and there was probably buyers who had shed some tears because they had written multiple offers on homes and may not have gotten them. Sellers were, probably pretty happy. It shifted. And, what caused that shift? Well, you were talking about earlier with commercial inventory, but the residential inventory was lower. We needed to allow builders a chance to get caught up. But, of course, the feds adjusted the interest rate. So that caused some buyers to pause and say, wait a minute, am I getting caught up in this frenzy? We actually, I read an article recently that 53% of buyers who purchased a home in 20 or 21 regret their purchase. And maybe they got caught up in the emotion of it. Maybe they just felt like, I absolutely have to buy it now. These rates are so low. But it's the old saying, you date the loan, marry the house, because you can always go refinance. So back to your question, we are at a shift. In our Omaha market right now, the period where we're at right now versus last year at the same time, our inventory is actually up about 33%, which is good. But we're still down in inventory. And we are talking about the new construction home building going on. That has to continue. Rates, of course, have moved up. But if they move up again and you locked in and purchased, great. You made a good decision. If they happen to go lower, you can refinance. So it's just a reason to say people always need a home. It's shelter. It's your sanctuary to go home to at the end of the day. So let's not panic and let's just keep moving forward.
That's a staggering figure, though. 50% people regret their purchase. Right. I purchased in 21. I didn't plan to. It was one of those things where it worked better for my family. I certainly don't regret it. Good. I think it was a good time because I got the low interest rate and everything. But definitely it's been a really interesting dynamic. So I really wonder how it's going to play out in the next 12 to 18 months as well, to see if there's more inventory or not.
Well, the stealing from MOBA, our local Metro Omaha Builders Association, they were stating that once rates went above 6%, builders would probably back off. Well, yesterday rates for a 30-year conventional were above 7%. So, we do not want builders to back off. But, of course, they're going to build upon the buyer's demand. We don't want to go back to what happened in 2008, 2009 when there was an oversupply of homes. Some builders went out of business. They had oversupply. Buyers weren't there. So that's not what we want to get to. But when that happened, to go back to those years, there was an oversupply. So it kind of, we turned the faucet off. Well, then we never turned it back on, and I act like I'm a builder. I'm not. But it was never turned back on to the production levels to catch up to what happened during the pandemic. So supply-wise, houses are selling. We've got about a 1.5 month supply of inventory. That's low. A neutral market is 3 to 6 months, and once it hits over 6 months, they say it's a buyer's market. Again, we're at 1.5, so we still need that supply. And I think you were saying it too in that commercial world. Keep it coming. We need it. It's just getting those buyers to understand too. That house that they may have been able to afford at a 3% interest rate last year, well, the interest rate has doubled. So there's some adjusting that needs to happen.
And you might have to adjust your perspective and your expectations given the interest rate increase.
Yeah.
So Jill, we're speaking with Jill Anderson, president of NP Dodge Residential Sales. We were talking earlier, you and I off air, that for the first time in a long time, I've recently noticed for sale signs in my neighborhood, because it wasn't that long ago where no one bothered to put one up because you could sell it so fast. And they're still selling, but maybe it's taking a few weeks. But interestingly, Jorge and you live in kind of the same area, and you guys were saying that there were a couple houses that sold in your neighborhood that still went over asking price.
Right.
So it's still
healthy.
Hot market.
Yeah. It's still real. You have, everyone has to be realistic though as well. And I have always used the term, and maybe it's getting old, but it's always a price war and a beauty contest. So the houses that are priced appropriately, the ones that show well, are going to be the ones that get the offers. And of course, if someone's living in the past, a seller's living in the past and thinking, well, hey, my neighbor sold their house for $60,000 over in 20 minutes. That could have happened, but our market has shifted. So they really need to have that educated information right now and have that kind of gut check to say, is that possible?
Even on our side as commercial agents, setting expectations is so important for your client. And so that's definitely a part of the job of the agent to be able to speak to that and make sure sellers are up to date on their expectations.
Absolutely.
To offer another perspective here, I was in California not too long ago, and just to offer a comparison here, the San Francisco housing market is down and going down, down, down. I mean, it's amazing to see how long homes are sitting on the market, what kind of homes are sitting on the market, and the price cuts they're having to take. Right. Several $100,000s. It's unbelievable. So there is a contrast still, I think, between the coast and Omaha. Do you still see that dynamic playing out in the future? Or are we still buffered like we thought we were back in the day?
I think, luckily, yes, Omaha is always one of those communities that we're not in those coastal areas. So we don't see the big highs and lows. For home equity gains, last year, I think the average was around like 13% of gain in home equity. That's huge in a year. We're used to 3 to 4%. So what economists are predicting going forward is more in that coming back to that 4 to 5% gain in equity. You're not losing money; you're still gaining money. But then back to the people going out to buy a house right now, the sellers are like, "Well, I'm losing money on my house." It's like, no, you have to remember what you bought it for. You actually have gained money. You may just not get that $60,000 I was talking about a minute ago. It might be $10,000 over, or you may get list, or you may not get list. But it's that education part of it.
I guess we have to inspect homes again.
Yeah, those are coming into play.
Inspections.
A lost art is coming back.
Right.
Our friend Jill Anderson is here. She is president of NP Dodge Residential Sales. And, Jill, we were talking about the condition of the housing market, interest rates going up. But I think it's important to remember that on a historical basis, this high interest rate is still not too bad.
I agree. I can't say, in the 70s when I bought my first house because I'm not that old. But, they have been at 18%. When my husband and I bought our very first house, we actually lived in Arizona for several years. We bought at 7 and didn't blink an eye. So the fact that we're here now and people are like, well, these, the rates are the highest they've been since 2008. They're still very good. There should not be concern because as we've talked about, you can refinance. There are other products out there. I'm not a lender, but there's ARMs, portfolio loans. A lot of lenders offer, physician loans depending on your profession. So don't be afraid. Talk to a professional.
And the other thing I wanted to mention, we were talking about that supply, and you talked about a month and a half supply. And interest rates are going up. We might be in a recession. Who knows? Maybe we're not. But I think one of the things that will help Omaha with the housing market in the next year is a combination of population growth, because there are no indications that we won't continue growing because we are doing so many good things here economically and quality of life wise, and that existing housing shortage. I think it's going to be fascinating if there's this war between macroeconomic conditions, high interest rates, high inflation, recession, and Omaha keeps growing and attracting people, and we already have a housing shortage. The clash will be fascinating to watch.
Right. Yeah. As we said earlier, the building has to continue. Economists are predicting, looking into late 2023, so a year from now, rates will probably come back down. But if we don't keep building, we'll be back into this, shortage where last year we were at a point where there was 6 months of supply. So that's why we're talking about your house, the neighbor house in your neighborhood that came on the market, and you're like, hey, it was funny, I actually saw a sign.
Yeah, it was weird.
And it was for more than, a couple days. Because right now we're averaging 15 days on the market. And that's not to scare any seller who has a house that might be on the market a little longer than that. Again, conditions vary, but we are starting to get back to a normal market.
I think we got kind of jaded there for a while. I mean, I certainly see it with the people that have sold homes, and they're still selling at strong numbers. Correct. Above ask.
Yep.
So, Jill, you gave us a little bit of a prediction there. You said an economist or some economists said that we could actually see rates possibly go down about a year from now. Right. But in general, when you look into your real estate crystal ball, let's say for the first half of next year, what do you see coming? What are you preparing for?
There's not going to be a significant change from where we are right now. And that's not to scare anyone either, because, as we were kind of talking offline, people move. The common reasons are death, divorce, they're upsizing, downsizing, job relocation. So there are plenty of reasons to sell. There are plenty of reasons to buy. We saw during the pandemic, our homes are our sanctuary, and it's the place we want to come home to at night, relax. Well, during the pandemic, it became our second office, maybe, place where we were teaching kids. The backyard might have become the gym that we used to go to. So those will still exist in people's minds. And at some point, I've got a kiddo that's ready to graduate college. Graduate high school and go to college. I'm close to being an empty nester, and we're like, should we move? Should we stay? So those life changes will continually happen. So there's no reason for people to be scared. There's people selling and there's people buying all the time.
Now, before we let you go, Jill, NP Dodge is always looking for talented people who want to become real estate agents. In the current environment, are you still seeing a lot of people who want to adopt that as a new profession? And for those who are, how do you get started? And how do you become an NP Dodge agent?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for saying that, Jeff. During the pandemic, we know a lot of people left their jobs. And a lot of people wanted to get into real estate, which is fantastic. But we always say get into it for the right reasons. It's not the easiest career. But if you love what you're doing, it can be fantastic. To get into it, please just go to npdodge.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, it's really easy. There is a link that says how to get started. And on that note, if you're looking for a different career, but you may not want to be a real estate agent, we have all of our job postings for our company wide on that link. So take a look. You'll be put in touch with the correct person, and we'd love to talk.
Yeah, and despite any economic changes lately, we still need a lot of good quality people at the company.
You're right.
Jill, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a perspective on the real estate market. We'll have you back sometime in the first half of next year.
Sounds great. Do you think Trenton's listening to us? Can I tell him hello?
He might be.
He might be. I think he will.
There might be a bit of a time zone difference, but you never know.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you, Jill.
Jill Anderson, president of NP Dodge Residential Sales.
If you like this video, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, Grow Omaha is not just media. This is a mission. We are trying to build up Omaha and make it an even better place. We can only do that with your help. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, and family.